Well, hello there, intentional streaming fans. Welcome to another Wednesday edition with my co-host Jarvis.
Hey, what's up, everybody, on this wacky and wild free-for-all free agent frenzy?
You know, I don't know which is crazier, the 5 inches of rain we've had today, or all the free agency moves in the last 2 to 3 days. It's just completely nuts. It really is.
That's the best part about living in the state of Nebraska is the last week we've had nothing but snow, and it just never stopped. And when it finally stopped, it got warm, and now it's doing nothing but raining, and it's flooding my city.
Flooding my basement.
my goodness. Mother Nature, go home. You're drunk.
Well, since we're probably really the only podcasters in Nebraska, aren't we? So we'll just go with that narrative.
Yeah.
So you can always catch us on Twitter at INTStreamPod or chuck us an email at intentionalstreaming@gmail.com. So you throw us a question or comment, whatever, on either one. We'll take it on the show.
This week, unfortunately, we did not have a question, so we're going to skip that. But, hey, you know what? We've got a lot to cover.
We do. So was that a hint that we need to get to it?
Let's just jump right in, huh?
All right. We're gonna throw this out by divisions, and I'm gonna say this right off the bat. Okay, this is my big issue what I have with contracts is what the media reports with the guaranteed money is absolute beep beep.
Fake news.
It's bull. It's crap. When they throw out a perfect example was Todd Gurley's contract last year. The media threw out $45 million. Well, there's a new phrase in the media circles is and with NFL contracts, what's going on is we're doing these rolling guaranteed contracts.
Rolling guarantee?
Rolling guarantees.
What does that mean?
Well, it really doesn't mean diddly. It means basically if you're on the roster come March, blah, 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 usually like the third or fifth day of the league year, then that following year is guaranteed. Well, what's guaranteed about that in February? There's nothing that's guaranteed about that contract in February. So like with Todd Gurley's contract, $45 million last year, it wasn't. Only $23 million of that was guaranteed, and that was his signing bonus and the first year. So when you hear the huge guarantees that we're going to spit out tonight, really ignore most of them. You know, we don't have most of the details on some of these contracts, so
just take them for face value.
Yeah. So it's just a way for the media to hype stuff up and say it's guaranteed when it's crap. These huge numbers are not fully guaranteed numbers. So that being said,
well, and then today is the day one of the new league year, and so legal tampering started on the 11th, which means that teams could wink talk with these players about potential contracts and signings and stuff like that. So I was looking back at this, from last year's perspective versus this year, and I can't remember, Flip, this many breaking stories that happened on Monday. I don't think that we had near that many last year.
I don't think there was either, Jarvis. And, we had talked about that before, and it's really crazy. And I think part of it was a lot of teams had a lot more cap space this year compared to previous years.
Yeah, we had a couple teams that were over $90 million. That's wild. So they got the money to play with. And
yeah, and they went hog wild, didn't they?
They sure did. So it was really an exciting Monday, and with you and I being in the same Dynasty League, we've created our own little Group Me. There's an app out there called Group Me, which I'd encourage you folks that are in your own fantasy leagues to download and have everybody do it, because it's better than sending out a group text. It's just an app that you can post a message, everybody can see it. So throughout the day, throughout Monday, I was every 5-10 minutes, I was on my phone posting, messages to everybody in our Dynasty League. Okay, this guy's going here. This guy's signing here. I had a couple people reach out to me in text and who are you, Adam Schefter? What's going on? You must not be busy today. Well,
and the ones that didn't reach out had already blocked you by then, right?
Oh yeah, they blocked me a long time ago, I'm sure.
So now we're gonna jump into one of the. We're gonna hit this by division. So we're gonna start with the AFC East. We're gonna hit one of the biggest contracts that was thrown out this year with fantasy implications, and that's Le'Veon Bell signing with the Jets.
Finally, we get some clarification as to where the bell is being tolled.
Now you can look at this, and what's being widely reported is 4-year, $52.5 million contract, including $35 million in guaranteed money. Well, what's not being included in this is incentives could push this deal to $61 million. But we don't know if there's two types of incentives that the NFL goes by, and those are likely to be earned and not likely to be earned. And it's really kind of funny because these are actual technical terms that are laid out in the CBA. Likely to be earned deals would be something a player has done in the past, like rush for 1,000 yards or carry the ball 200 times or catch 30 passes. Not likely to be earned incentives would be winning the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl MVP.
Super Bowl MVP. So it's going to be interesting because this is actually a pretty big difference of, almost $9 million. A lot of Steeler fans want to rub Bell's nose in the poo here, saying, "You just got $52 million." Well,
and you turned down 70.
It's a difference of a year. But when you really kind of get into it, and there's also been other reporting that Bell is getting $28 million fully guaranteed, and that was by Aditi
Kinkawala.
Okay, I can't say her last name.
Yep, Aditi Kinkawala.
So, it's going to be interesting to see how it's guaranteed. How that contract is actually structured. Now, sorry, I go off of my little contract nerd ranting, which I'm so good at doing.
But hey, that's some good info for folks to know. Before, I had little to no idea what these contract terms even meant. I don't know enough about that to be able to speak intelligently on it. So I'm glad that you're here and you can kind of put it in layman's terms for not only myself, but a lot of other people out there.
Well, hopefully I did put it in layman's terms there. I write a lot of cap articles. I'll plug Behind the Steel Curtain, the site I write for. That's behindthesteelcurtain.com. I'll shamelessly plug that. But the cap is difficult to understand. And I'll tell you, the cap is the number one thing that makes the NFL go round. You don't have cap money, you're not signing big players. The Jets, they had big cap money. So they grabbed Le'Veon Bell for 4 years, $61 million.
Well, and it was my understanding that they had a deal tentatively set in place for Anthony Barr from the Vikings to come over. Well, when he ended up backing out, that gave him back some more money to where they could restructure and reallocate some of those funds back to Le'Veon Bell and make one big final offer for him, which ended up being the one that he went with.
Now, I'm not an Adam Gase fan, who's the head coach that came from Miami. If you were, as a Bell owner that you are.
That's what we need to talk about. So we understand. Okay, so the Steelers are coming at this from two different directions. And they're kind of rubbing his face in the mud a little bit because, oh, well, you turned down $70 million to take 55 or whatever it may be. There's that side. But the other side is like, you just went to the Jets. You got out of a situation with a Hall of Fame quarterback, a good offense, a great offensive line, and now you go to a team that's just it's borderline in the process of rebuilding.
They were 4-12 last year.
So that's the golden ticket, or that's the $100,000 question. What fantasy implications does this have? Me personally, as the Le'Veon Bell owner, I did not want him to go to the Jets. It was one of my least favorite landing spots out of the likely candidates to land him, simply because they are in that process of rebuilding and their offensive line is not that great. But what we have to understand and we have to keep at the forefront of our mind when we're talking about this move is that Le'Veon Bell is going to go there and he's going to get the ball a lot.
A lot. Now, not only rushing the ball, but receiving.
Absolutely.
He's going to be so useful for Darnold, and I'm not a Darnold fan whatsoever. Darnold did have his moments last year. That is not a very quality team by any means.
We saw the success of, guys like Robbie Anderson at the New York Jets, in that organization, primarily come when Josh McCown was quarterbacking and it could just chuck the ball deep. Now, Darnold isn't much of a chucker. He's not much of a gunslinger. So I feel that he's going to be targeting, those, crossing patterns, those slants, those short dump-off passes. And I think that really spells well towards Le'Veon Bell's game because he can zip through the backfield and release on an out or like on a screen and just let his talent do the rest.
Now, a big thing that Bell does that a lot of running backs in the NFL do not do is he's fantastic at picking up the blitz. So he's going to help out in that aspect, too, to keep Darnold clean. Will that limit his receiving ability? That's yet to be seen. Talking about Robbie Anderson, they did tender him, restricted free agent. Projections for Bell. We're on a big tangent with Bell here. So
yeah. I still think that he's an RB1 this year. I don't see any reason to think otherwise.
Would you draft him over Gurley?
Well, with the uncertainty with Gurley's knee and everything, that's a tough one. I mean,
you wouldn't draft him in front of Barkley.
No.
Okay.
Well, given what the Giants just did, we'll get to that in a little bit.
David Johnson, Kareem Hunt's out of the mix.
Yeah, and that's the thing is when you look at these guys,
is there a clear-cut number one running back right now?
I'd still probably go with Zeke Elliott.
Zeke, okay.
Zeke's up there, probably towards the very, very top. Kamara's up there, but here's the thing: is like for the first time in a handful of years, there's the ambiguity of it. Like, who do you go with? Because before in the past, last couple of years, okay, yeah, it's without question Le'Veon Bell number one. Without question last year, Todd Gurley. Without question this year, who is it? We don't know. It's kind of leveled the playing field a little bit because with Gurley's situation, you gotta factor in his health. What's going on with his knee. You get into David Johnson. Okay, well, you got a new offensive coordinator. You got a new coach coming in. How are they going to get back to using him the way they used him before? Le'Veon Bell uprooted, going to a completely different team, completely different system, going to play for a head coach that hates using the running back,
which he's shown with Miller and Jay
and Kenyon Drake
and Kenyon. Oh.
But if you make that big of a splash landing and that big of a signing, you've got to expect him to finally, okay, yeah, we're going to use this guy. So for me, I don't know. I think maybe there'll be a little bit more clarity as the year and the offseason progresses. But as of right now, I think that your number one running back selection is probably going to be jumbled between a handful of guys.
So Can Bell hit 2,000 combined yards?
Will he? I would think that's a big stretch.
Okay. I would too. I don't think 60, 80 catches are out of the realm.
No.
I don't know about 1,400 yards rushing.
And he's going to have to get somewhere around there to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. I would say, 1,400 yards and another 600 receiving to hit that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to hit that total.
I don't think so behind that offensive line.
No.
They don't have as many weapons on the outside to be able to kind of draw that attention outward.
And Bell's not a home run guy. He's not a Kamara. And he never has been. That's where a lot of people say, well, he's wearing down. He's not a home run threat. No, Bell has never been a home run threat.
So before we move on, because, we're taking a lot of time on this particular one, but rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of fantasy implications here. So you as a dynasty owner, and I know that you don't have him, but say you did have him, is Le'Veon Bell, in your opinion, is he a stash, is he a trade, or is he a keep?
Absolutely a keep.
Keep?
Yeah, absolutely. I put him in the same category as he's absolutely a top 5 back. He took a year off. But we just watched that video and we tried to talk about it last week, but our show kind of
we did. We kind of glossed over that whole thing, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We don't want to talk about the debacle of last week's show, but we just saw a video of Bell.
There was a show, by the way, last week. There was a show, and there's only 3 people. There's only 3 individuals that heard it: Flip, myself, and then the dog.
Yeah,
we weren't live the whole time. So.
It didn't record, so.
Wah, wah, wah.
But,
anyway,
but yeah, Bell looked fantastic in that video, and he was with the Chiefs defensive tackle
Chris Jones. So,
Chris Jones. Check it out.
So just for you folks that don't know what we're talking about, there was a video, an Instagram video that was put out by Chris Jones, the defensive lineman for the Chiefs. He was hanging out with Lev Bell, and Lev Bell got up and he was like, "What if I came to Kansas City? What if I'd bring the rings and all this stuff or whatever." But the thing is that we noticed when he got up, he was in kind of his workout attire, and he did not look like the 260 pounds that
people
story
were
was
spouting
leaked
off
out
about. Yeah.
last week or 2 weeks ago, saying, "Oh, Bell has ballooned up to 260." He did not look that way at all.
No.
He looked like he was in fantastic shape.
Yeah. He looked like how Bell usually looks. Maybe a little pudgy, but definitely I wouldn't say over 240. His playing weight is probably close to 220. So, okay.
All right, so in other news with the Jets, I mean, like we said, they had a lot of money. They're spending it. So Jameson Crowder, they just signed him. I think this is a great sign for them. They really needed a good, reliable slot guy. Looks like Jameson Crowder, 25 years old. He's going to earn, $28.5 million over the next 3 years, with $17 million of that guaranteed. So, it is kind of a hefty sum for someone who's never really topped 850 yards coming off of a year that he's played in 9 games with 7 starts. But he also had an ankle injury there too. But what do you think?
This is a guy who just never could seem to reach his potential in Washington. I think there's a lot more people that are probably bigger Crowder fans than me.
Like me.
Like you.
Yep.
But, they have Robbie Anderson still. Is Crowder going to be the number 2 there? So.
I would think so. And in my personal opinion, again, when you have younger quarterbacks, especially guys that are accurate throwers, like Darnold is he's not much of a chucker, he's not much of a gunslinger, he's more of an accurate finesse passer, pocket passer. Slot guys, man, are there some of their favorite weapons to go to?
That nice security blanket,
yeah,
that we're going to see out of Crowder.
Yeah, and he's going to get that with Crowder and Le'Veon Bell. So, look for a dark horse, sneaky quarterback, season out of Sam Darnold this year. But in my personal opinion, I do like Jameson Crowder. I think he's hyper talented for the position and for as underrated as he is. he's a guy that I'm going to try to go after in my dynasty league and pick him up so that way I can spot start him as my wide receiver 4.
Yeah, and looking at his stats from the couple years before that, he had 66 and 67 catches. Not great yards per catch, but you don't expect that out of your slot guy. And he's just a little guy. He's only 5'9".
Yeah.
Can he stay healthy? I would say last year with the ankle, maybe just kind of a fluke. This is a guy who I think can get right back up to, the 60, 70 catch mark with Darnold, depending on how that offense goes. I'm not going to say that offense is going to blow you out of the water by any means.
No, it's not. I don't think anybody expects that, but
no,
I think that a good, realistic expectation out of a guy like Jameson Crowder could be wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, maybe, depending on who you have.
Yeah, if you have one of our buddies' wide receivers, who his wide receivers
could be wide receiver 1 or
2, and maybe he's listening, but I know he's going to listen to this tomorrow. At the very least,
we won't talk about the fact that he's got Saquon and Todd Gurley.
Yeah, but they don't make up for his garbage fire wide receivers.
So on the defensive side, though, hey, they bolstered their defense. They got C.J. Mosley.
Wow,
what a signing there!
Now,
5-year, $85 million. 51 of it guaranteed.
Yep. Mosley's, for the leagues that play with the DFS player, Mosley's, definitely a solid guy with that aspect. He might not be the best in coverage, but
that's his only knock.
Yeah. But he is a tackling machine.
And this is just another good addition to a young up-and-coming defense on that Jets defensive side. So I think it's a great signing for him. Again, they're out there, they're spending money.
Yeah, I mean, they got the cap space. You might as well. Mosley, 105 tackles last year, 132 the year before. He's gonna rack up the points on a team that is gonna be trailing a lot, for the year.
Which means that the other team is probably going to be running the ball a little bit more, which means as an inside linebacker, he's going to get more tackles. So if you're in a dynasty or a redraft league that starts these defensive guys, definitely keep him on your radar.
So let's run into to run from the Jets right into the Bills.
Yeah.
What do you think? They signed John Brown away from the Ravens. What do you think of John Brown?
So overall, we saw the Bills make a lot of moves.
Yes.
They were one of the more active teams this year in free agency. They didn't make any big splash landings. They made a bunch of good signings, good to average, mediocre signings, but overall, I think they really helped their offense out quite a bit with these signings. They got John Brown, like you just said, 3-year, $27 million contract. Last year he had 48 receptions, 696 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, that was kind of a down year, and it started off okay, but we saw his production just completely dip once they committed to Lamar Jackson as their quarterback. So this guy's got blazing speed, and with a big arm quarterback like Josh Allen there chucking it to him, this could be a sneaky guy to keep your eye on. So I do like that signing. And then with him and Reuben Foster on the other side, Josh Allen's got 2 viable deep threats right down the middle, and then that leads us to the guy underneath that they brought in, Cole Beasley.
Yeah, a fantastic slot guy. They grab him for 4 years, $29 million, 65 catches, 672 yards, and 4 touchdowns last year in Dallas. Perfect slot guy for Allen to work with. He is 29 though. Mm-hmm. And going back to Brown real quick, he did have a 1,000-yard season, albeit 4 years ago. He's really gone downhill since then. 2 years in Arizona. I mean, he was banged up a bit.
Doesn't he have the sickle cell trait?
Yeah, he does. He does. And but I think he's got that under control now.
I think so too. I know that Arizona really liked him. They really liked him, but it just didn't work out, and they couldn't hold on to him much longer. So I know they had high expectations, but that sickle cell trait that he unfortunately has was preventing him from kind of breaking out the way that they'd expected him to.
You look at John Brown last year. 44, 92, 86, 116, 58, 22, and 134 yards. Those are his yardage totals through the first 7 games. And then he does not break 30 the rest of the year with Jackson at the helm.
That's what I'm saying.
That's crazy. That total dropping off of the face of the earth for the speedster with ability.
That's what I'm saying. I think this is a great match. I think both for John Brown and Cole Beasley. Going to Buffalo, I think they're going to be utilized a lot more, especially John Brown, especially Cole Beasley, going to be utilized a lot more in this offense than they were in Dallas and then in Baltimore.
These are not huge, sexy signings.
No, they're not. But here's the thing to think about, though, is like, okay, well, if I don't know, like you compare it to, just a very average, kind of boring, lackadaisical golfer going up against a guy who can just mash the ball, but he's widely inaccurate. So you got this guy hitting the ball like 350 yards down the fairway or wherever it's going to go, and everybody's drawn to that. And they're like, oh, my gosh, look at that. Then you got this guy that's hitting at 200 yards, 150, and he gets on the green, and he pars every hole, and he ends up beating the guy. So it's kind of like tortoise and hare scenario. I don't know, but what I'm saying is that even though these aren't big, flashy signings, I think it helps him out quite a bit.
Yeah, it definitely –
pardon my really poor example there, but I hope you understand what I was trying to get at there. So, and another mediocre signing that they did, they brought in Tyler Croft. Again, a good, a 3-year, $18 million contract. He had 42 receptions, 404 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 2017, but he only played in 5 games last season. Because of the injury, but due to his foot injury. But this is another viable tight end,
Yeah, this is kind of following the line here. They're not breaking the bank on these guys. These guys are definitely going to help out Josh Allen, who had a rough rookie year. Showed some flashes, showed his legs, And then now we're gonna throw in Frank Gore on top of
That's one of my favorite signings this whole time because the guy is gonna play forever.
He is. You look at Gore. He signs a 1-year deal for $2 million. Last year he ran for 732 yards, and that was actually his lowest total since 2005. We're talking 13 years ago. He'll be 36. Obviously, they're going to keep Shady McCoy. They're not going to dump Shady McCoy and go with him. This is going to end the Chris Ivory. I'm a terribly overpaid running back era.
But here's the funny thing about that. You say that what's he? He's 36?
Mm-hmm.
And how old is McCoy?
30.
30. And then how old is Ivory? He's 30.
Oh, Ivory's that old? Boy,
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize Chris Ivory was that old.
Between their current 3 running backs,
they're almost
they're
100.
96 years old.
Now that's funny.
That's awesome. But no, kudos to Frank Gore, man. This guy, he refuses to quit. Now, if there's any guy in the NFL that I could probably say with 100% confidence that he's playing for the love of the game and he loves playing this more than anybody, it's Frank Gore. The guy just refuses to stop playing.
Now, with Shady having issues staying healthy, you look at Frank Gore, he has rushed for 1,000 yards every season since 2006, except for 3 times. And one of those times was 967 yards, 961, and 712. That's impressive right there. Now, absolute handcuff to Shady.
Oh, without question. A guy to pick up and stash on your team to get you by on a week. If you happen to have some injuries and stuff like that.
We'll see how much time he splits. I mean, he could even split time with Shady. I think this really hurts McCoy's value. I really think it could. Because if McCoy goes down and Gore produces, why put Shady back in?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, a lot of moves being made out of Buffalo. Now Frank Gore's former team, boy, they pulled off a surprise move. They not only decided to keep Devontae Parker, but they're extending him 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, $11.2 million contract. He's pulled 56 and 57 receptions in 2016 and 2017, respectively. 2018, 24 for 309, injury-plagued year. This is a guy that I have in a dynasty league. And I drafted this guy as a first round his rookie year. And I'm still waiting.
And this is a guy that I have laughed at since he came in the league. I've never bought into the Devontae Parker hype, and I couldn't be happier that I have been proven right so far. I could have sworn his time in Miami was over. It sounded like it was over, but no.
I figured it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so mad at last year, but now no Adam Gase to screw up his career.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I mean, he's got to be their number one down there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The departure of Amendola's, going to the Lions. But,
you look at his last year's stats, and they're terrible, except for the big game against Houston. And Houston's cornerbacks aren't slouches, especially, we're talking week 3 last year. He had 6 receptions for 134 yards last year. He has these big monster games and is a highly touted former first rounder, and the injuries and the lack of trust in him, just has killed his value.
And maybe, who knows? Maybe this is his year that he'll finally have that breakout year and buy him on the cheap if you believe it, if you believe the hype, because I'm sure you can get him pretty cheap at this point.
And I think you could, and we don't actually have this wrote down or anything, but what's going on with the quarterback situation there?
Well, they are meeting, I guess, tonight with Teddy Bridgewater, who was tentatively slated to sign a contract with the Saints to be Breeze's backup.
We thought that deal was done.
Yeah, I thought it was over and done with too. But the Saints, I guess, are playing it cool and being like, yeah, go ahead and meet with him. So the Dolphins are going to be pursuing Teddy Bridgewater, which I think, didn't you say that would have been a good landing spot for him?
Yeah.
Because I thought Tyrod Taylor would have been a good fit down there.
Yeah, and see,
based off the show last week, but we can't reference that because it was never aired.
we can reference it. Just people will just like, what are you guys talking about? That's just kind of the crazy thing that's going on. Supposedly Bridgewater signed with New Orleans, but now all of a sudden, see, Bridgewater was what I've read is Bridgewater saying to the Dolphins, "I'll come to you. You don't draft a quarterback in the first round."
I would rather have Ryan Tannehill than Teddy Bridgewater.
No. Where's that womp womp? Play one of those silly sounds you got on your phone. Come on.
Hey, I've never been much of a I like Bridgewater the person and as an NFL type quarterback, but as a fantasy quarterback, he's brutal.
He's brutal.
Yeah, go ahead and look up his stats.
They're right there.
Okay, so
look at that.
His career, what's his career touchdowns? He's got 29 career touchdowns to what? How many
He's
interceptions?
played
28?
2 years.
But he's also got 28 interceptions, right? 23 interceptions, 29 picks or 29 touchdowns to 23 interceptions.
That's not too shabby when all those came.
But it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio.
Well, no, that's almost a 2-to-1 ratio. It's just
29 to 23.
Yeah, I'm just playing with your math there.
Yeah.
Now see, look at it. So his first year, 14 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But that second year, when they went to they went 13-5 that year.
Yeah, but here's my thing. I just said that he's a good NFL quarterback for like the NFL team, but for fantasy, he's garbage.
Oh no, yeah, for fantasy, he's
That's
okay.
That's
my bad. I took you wrong there.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying, because you don't want your fantasy quarterback throwing 14 touchdowns a year.
No. Now, in one of the leagues I'm in, it's a heavy quarterback league. Where you can start 4 quarterbacks. Yeah, he's great for my 4th quarterback. But yeah, for fantasy value, he is bottom. And especially if you're going with Devontae Parker and what else, Kenyon Drake or whoever. So no, I agree. Fantasy value, no, he sucks.
And for all you dynasty owners out there of the young touted tight end for the Dolphins, Mike Gesicki, you've got a little something to worry about here, because they signed not only Dwayne Allen from the Patriots, but they also signed Clive Walford. Yeah. Now, the Clive Walford thing, is that just mostly for pass or for run blocking, pass blocking?
No, that's more Dwayne Allen is going to be the run blocker there, even though he does come with a $7 million 2-year deal. He only caught 30 passes.
But he was also splitting time with Gronk. I
guess,
so.
but I mean, even when Gronk was hurt, they still didn't use him. I would if Bridgewater goes there. That's a huge upgrade on Gesicki because Bridgewater loved Rudolph those first few years. So we go through that. We'll do the Patriots. Here's the most exciting news out of Patriot land. Josh Gordon signed an original round tender. It's going to cost him a 2nd rounder for anybody to pry him away. Will he even play this year? We might not even know until August.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know how the NFL does with their suspensions.
Yeah. Not a lot of news coming out of there.
No.